Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team fucking here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team fucking here. I done kept it real from the jump. I done kept it real from the jump. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team fucking here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team fucking here. Started from the bottom, now we. I done kept it real from the. I done kept it real from the jump. Living at my mama's house, we argue every month, nigga. I done kept it real from the jump. Living at my mama's house, we argue every month, nigga. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team fucking here. I done kept it real from the jump. I done kept it real. I done kept it real from the jump.
Yeah. This is for all you non-philosophizing black sheep, unwelcome, push to the side motherfuckers like me.
Fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Yeah. Fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Let's get down to business. These bitches got glitches. And you thought you'd dismiss us? Nah. Now I'm laughing in stitches. See, the problem be, it'll be a tragic travesty to come after me. So just know this is how we get down. Respect that shit like a pronoun, bitch. Yeah. Fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Yeah. And fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Yeah. Fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Yeah. Fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way.
What up? What's up, everybody?
What up?
Hey.
Hey, Miyu, what's up?
Hi, guys.
What's up? Welcome to another edition of Behind the Curtain. And obviously we have some guests with us this evening. Wes and Jen are busy taking care of some things this time. They're in the chat, but what's up, everybody in the chat? And we're going to be talking to with John Kristin today about his book and probably all kinds of other fun shit, because you know how we do it around here. So before I make a couple quick announcements, we'll do a quick intro here, and let's make John the man in the middle here. So John, welcome. Now a longtime supporter of both Tang and viewer and supporter of Skeptic Haven. And what's up, John?
Well, thank you for having me on the show and talking about my book. That I'm grateful. I'm doing fine. Hope everyone else is too.
Yeah.
Good. And shout out to Biddy Buddha. She would love your background.
Yeah.
And then we have Phil G in the house. What's up, Phil?
Hey, I'm good. I was just keeping it cool and taking it easy as far as I can. Yeah.
Heard that. And then Teo, welcome to the Atheist Network group and edition of Behind the Curtain. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. I'm happy to be here. I'm celebrating some stuff. Like, can I make some self-promotion?
Absolutely.
I'm celebrating 2 years doing YouTube videos, so I'm very happy about that. And we have a couple of episodes in the Global Atheist as well, so I'm happy about that as well. And last week, it was a couple of days ago, we had a great episode, so I'm happy about those things and happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. Glad to have you. And then, as always, Phil C in the house. How are you, sir?
Doing just great. You helped us out about a week ago to push us over our 1,000 subscriber mark, and now we're trying to figure out what to do next, and all the legal stuff basically.
Yeah.
Not what to do, but how to do. So,
Yep.
We're doing great.
Awesome. Yeah, and Wes and I kind of chatted a little bit about it last week, but yeah, anything you guys need help on that front, we've already, obviously jumped through all those hoops, and however we can help make that an easy process, just let us know.
Thanks. Yeah.
But before we start the conversation, just a couple of announcements here. Let me scroll up to my little thingamajigger thing, bigger nigger. Let's see, where'd they go? Well, I had them right here. Anyway, so today's Sunday. So tomorrow night, it'll be another edition of What's Your Story. It'll be Aunt Kathy and I, and this one will be at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you tune into that, and I'm sure we'll have lots of fun. But it's almost guaranteed that there'll be decent emotion, tears there. It's been last year and a half. It's been quite the journey for us and our family. So check that out, and then. On the 17th, we have a special edition of Whiskey, Scotch, and Cigars with Diddy, which we just mentioned a minute ago. She wasn't able to, because of internet up where she lives, it can be very spotty. So we had too many people on stream to keep it simple. So she's going to be joining me for that. We'll do a special edition, a little throwback. Big sis hanging out, and that's her last Halloween dressing up as me. I still think that shit is hilarious. And then if you didn't know, my most recent single dropped. You can find it on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, wherever it is, and the links will be in the chat. And then last but not least, Devil's Night, officially the entire album, 17 tracks on there on October 30th, and I can't talk tonight. And the pre-sales will start on the 10th. So on the 10th, you can start purchasing the entire album. So I'm excited about that. And then the always shameless plug: if you haven't already bought it, go buy it. Volume 2, The Atheist Handbook to the Old Testament by Dr. Yeshua Bowen. And if you don't know who he is, well, one, that's crazy. You should already know who he is. But if you don't, that's him. Keeping it gangster. But no, let's get this party started. So before we do it, you know what we do here on TANG.
Blame it on the blame it on the couch feeling, blame it on the couch feeling, blame it on the alcohol.
All right. Well, again, welcome.
You got to get that into your avatar.
What's that?
Oh, I don't drink, only coffee. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Well, you need a cup. You can fake it.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, you can put anything in a coffee mug.
Touché, sir. Good point there. Good point.
It was actually, it's Dr. Josh. I think one or two times that he's drank like on a stream with me. Both times, I can't remember what he was drinking, but whiskey or whatever it was, and he had it in the TANG coffee mug, which I thought was
nice.
Great advertisement. But again, welcome, John, Christian, and we sure love and appreciate you and all your support. But tonight, this one's about you and for you. So first of all, kind of tell everybody that doesn't know in the chat that sees this now or later, tell them a little bit about yourself, kind of your background, and we'll kick it off from there.
Sure. Well, at the risk of making this sound like what's my story, my background, I wasn't born in North America. I was born in Belgium. My parents were Hungarian refugees. I was born in 1957. They escaped in 1956. My mother was pregnant with me, and that's where I was born. And my middle name is Christian, I just use it as my last name because my last name is Hungarian and no one can pronounce it. And as a musician, I didn't want a name that no one could pronounce. So starting around age 18, I went by John Christian. Never really thought much about it. I mean, in church, you know, when I became a Christian at age 22, I was not raised in a Christian family. That's a whole other story. And in church or any kind of place like work or government, of course, I use my last name. They know me as that. In music, and I call myself John Christian. And it only struck me when I became an atheist and started being on side chats that, oh yeah, this is a strange name to have for an atheist, but that's what I go by. I spent 40 years in Toronto, raised in Montreal, moved to Toronto after college, and I was worked in post-production. I was one of the fortunate people who came out of college and went straight into working in a studio, and the rest is history. And at 60 years old, I was about to start another contract. I was editing television shows. Unfortunately, I had a brain aneurysm, but I was in Toronto and they got me to the hospital in time. And after about a month of coming out, I was okay. I got a little bit of an issue on the right side. And I've been playing guitar ever since age 10. I was in bands most of my life. I took time off from my work. I only worked contracts. I never actually had a job, like a full-time job. So I took some time off from film, and I was working in film, and I pursued a career in music. And for about 6 years, I lived the dream. I was poor, but I toured around, and I got married, and I had a son during that time period. And when he was 4, I decided I'm going to go back to editing, and I did. And then my wife and I rededicated ourselves to Christianity, and that's when the shit really hit the fan. I ended up in a Pentecostal church without even knowing what that meant, and I soon found out what it was. It's pretty crazy. And at age 46, I walked away from Christianity. You see, I was confused between deconversion, and deconstruction. So really, I know now that I deconverted from Christianity at age 46. Still believing in a God, still searching for some kind of answers of a supernatural being or whatever. And I went down for another 12 years. 58 years old is when I finally admitted that I'm an atheist. And that was 7 years ago. So it's been great ever since. Of course, with the brain aneurysm, that kind of ended my career. And I remarried. Of course, I divorced, not of course, but I did divorce my first wife. We got divorced. And I remarried a woman I met in Toronto, and she's from here in this little town in Nova Scotia. And we got a word that there's a house for sale for a remarkably low price. So I bought it because I could not possibly afford a house in Toronto. And I just wanted to get back into owning a house somewhere to retire to. And that was the smartest thing I did, quite frankly, because when I had a brain aneurysm and the income stopped flowing, well, I just moved down here. And I started getting better. I had to relearn how to play guitar. I mean, my mind knew how to play guitar, but my hands just weren't doing it. And so I got better and better. And then just when I was thinking, I played a couple of gigs in the town here, and played in front of people. I was beginning to enjoy myself, and that was the fall of 2019. I thought, okay, I'm going to get my shit together. Come 2020, the springtime, I'm going to hit whatever bar I can play in and whatever stage and meet some people. And yeah, well, we know what happened in 2020. So I started writing a book in 2020, and technically that's my third book. I wrote 2 nonfiction books before that. And when I became an atheist in 2015, I wanted to write my second book. At the time, I had written one book already about my deconversion. I thought about it for maybe 10 minutes. And I realized that my deconversion process is pretty stupid and weird and just flaky. And who would really care? So I decided to write it in fictional form. And that's what it started out as, being the way to Kealo. But there's much more to it, and we could talk about that later. That's who I am. I live in this small town in Nova Scotia. I still don't know anybody. And I'm looking forward to getting out and meeting some people and playing again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Nova Scotia.
Yep. And I'm not a maritimer. I mean, I like it here. It's just that I'm so Toronto. I really miss Toronto.
So
All
Toronto.
the people I know are back there. Yeah.
Well, before we get, one of the things that John and I have in common is we do love our music, and obviously you can see some of John's gear there behind him. So let's talk a little music, John, before we get into the music, or sorry, before we jump into the book.
Sure.
What are your, whether it's artist or band, whatever, what are your top, maybe one or two go-tos, if you turn on, CD player, MP3 player, your phone, whatever, what's the first, like, one or two bands or artists that you go to?
After over 50 years of doing both listening to music and playing, it's not an easy question to answer, but I will say that if it's from the 70s, I really like Jethro Tull, Genesis, CCR, love CCR, and Leonard Cohen. I mean, this is quite a mix. If we're talking the 80s, then it's the Clash. I just love the Clash.
Wow.
And Killing Joke was another one I really liked. They were kind of hard, but I liked them, And then I stopped following music after 90. I retired from music in 1990. And then I started picking up an interest in the blues.
Okay.
And particularly Appalachian style blues. I like Eric Clapton a lot, but, I can only take so much of him. I kind of like to go back to the original blues artists.
Yeah.
Almost that scratchy sound that, recorded in the 30s and 40s and 50s. So I'm really getting off on that sort of stuff. And Bob Dylan, of course, has been something that I've liked 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and now. He's pretty weird, but I like him.
Yeah. Well, and I won't speak for you, but I think most people that really are passionate and love music, at least for me, I'm a little weird. I think when you, especially if you have a very eccentric and widespread enjoyment of music, I think we're all a little different, and anytime I think about like the musicians or the artists or the composers that are like the genius and the brilliant ones, they're often also the like the outcasts or whatever, like when they're not behind the mic.
Sure. Like Brian Wilson.
Yeah, and we go down a list, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's like, for sure, when they're behind the microphone, it's one thing, but then not. And there's a lot of them. They're even just flat out introverted if they don't have a microphone or instrument in their hands.
Yeah. And also, I got to tell you that you really turned me on to the music that you're into. I was never against any kind of music. I like all kinds of music, but rap and hip hop were just something that I just on a peripheral level, I would hear it and go, that's pretty cool. But you made me really pay attention to it, and now I'm just digging it. It's a whole new world. I don't know what I'm even listening to half the time when you're playing those. If I'm not watching, I can't watch it when you play it, man. It's like 4:00 in the morning here. But later on, I'll turn it on and you're spinning something. I don't know what you're doing, but it's really cool.
Oh, I appreciate it.
If that's rap and hip hop, then I dig it, man. I really do. Really
appreciate it. We got another convert. Shout out to the hip hop heads. And I know guitar is your main instrument. Do you play anything else?
Bass. I play bass. I used to always have a bass. I still have one. I have a jazz bass. And in the Pentecostal church, I went to 2 of them. And when we moved, we bought a house outside of Toronto, so we had to go change it, church. And I wanted to just take it easy. I don't want to let people know I'm a musician right off. I want to see, is this a church I want to be part of? And I was feeling that, no, it doesn't feel right. And I was right. Terrible church. But my son was in Sunday school, and he heard people praying, "Oh Lord, give us a bass player. We need a bass player." And says, "Oh, my dad has a bass guitar." So then I got dragged into that. And in the 6 years I was in that
So
church
what
on the
was
worship
wrong?
team.
What was wrong with the church?
Oh, well, we
How
can
did you
talk about
suspect?
that. We can talk about that. But the point is that I became a damn good bass player. I had to.
Mm.
And I learned. I became good. I mean, that's the one good thing that came about from that church. I became a good bass player.
So you were an answer to a prayer. That's so funny.
there's a bright side to everything, isn't there?
And to follow up on Phil C's question, if there's one of the two things that stick out when you say, you know, it was a bad church or it didn't feel right, or what, you know, whatever that gut feeling was, what you were sensing?
Well, first of all, you know, my deconstruction or my deconversion at this point, because this is back when I was in my 40s, from age 39 to 46. We moved when I was 39, and 46 I walked out of the church. It doesn't matter that the church was bad. That's not what led to my deconversion, but it was a terrible church. And they, it's everything you've ever heard. I mean, all the stories, you know, how can I put it? They lied. It was cliquey. They argued with me, or I argued with them. I shouldn't have been in a Pentecostal church because I don't believe in their tenets. I mean, now I'm totally deconstructed. But when I was a Christian, I should have probably gone to like I don't know, a more conservative church, because it was just a crazy place. And I argued, and they thought that, you know, I'm not saved. And I argued that I didn't get the second blessing. And they had some weird attitudes about Christianity. And there were some unethical things going on that they seemed to look past, that I thought was terrible. And people were getting hurt. I mean, I can give you the stories, but, you know, they would be talking about other people and what they went through. Oh, here's one, for instance. There was a fellow, a really nice fellow, and we were like friends. He was a nice guy, and he worked in Sunday school. And one of the ladies went to the pastor and says, "I don't think it's right for a man to teach Sunday school. And, you know, he may be, you know, what I think. I don't think he should be with children." And so he was let go from Sunday school, and his heart was broken because he really had a heart for children. And because someone thought that maybe he's not appropriate or something. And he was so upset that he just walked away from church. I never heard from him again. A similar thing happened to the drummer of the worship team. Very unethical. And, you know, I was in booze cans, my friend, 10 years earlier, people shooting heroin in the same room, and they had better ethics than the people in the church. Yeah. And was this one of those things? It was ugly. It was really ugly. Yeah.
Was this one of those things too, where they thought their church was the correct way to teach the Bible or whatever, and then everybody else had it wrong?
Yeah. I was told that I worship a God with a lowercase g, and I was in seminary at that point. I went back to seminary. I mean, I did it online with Tyndale University. You can do the first 2 years online. The next 2 years you have to be in class, and so I didn't do that. But I wanted to be an apologist, and that was the path that led me out. I said, I'm going to learn. I didn't, up to that point, I wasn't reading the Bible other than what the sermon had, those few verses. I decided that's it. These people have it wrong, and I'm going to learn about real Christianity. So I started reading the Bible and studying hard. I signed up to seminary. And I wanted to be an apologist, write books, go on speaking tours, start a radio show. Sure, I wanted to do all that. And the deeper I got, less sense it made. And then someone said, read this book. This will help you. And the book was called The Case for Christ.
Oh, God.
What a pile of garbage that was. Yeah.
That's an amazing book, because they think it's so good. That's the scary part. They think it's so good, and they don't realize that they.
Isn't there like a whole series now? They're
making a film. They're making a film from it.
Belief, Jesus, whatever. You know, there's something that's been mentioned on TANG, and I really do love TANG, and I love supporting it. And I found when I first heard a mythicist, you know, Jesus is a myth. And yeah, obviously, like when I deconverted from Christianity, that came with the territory. You're like, maybe there's a guy called Jesus, but I don't care. Like, we're talking Mr. Christ, right? And if I'm not a Christian and I don't believe any of it, then there's no Mr. Christ. So I don't understand the controversy.
No, Mr. Christ was Jesus' dad.
Yeah. That's the guy I'm interested in knowing whether that person existed. It's like saying, there's a person called Steve in Indiana. Like, yeah, sure. Okay, I believe that.
Yeah.
But did he walk on water? Did he raise from the dead?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Was he spitting in dirt in his hand and making mud and healing blind people and shit?
Thunder, sorry.
When you say John, when you say Pentecostal, because just for clarity, because
Mm-hmm.
in the Christian world, there's kind of two versions of that. There's the very conservative side of it, where it's the women can only wear long dresses and have to wear long sleeve shirts at church, and and I think they even like they can sing hymns, but like there's no instruments involved, things like that. Or was it like the charismatic Pentecostal, like with
Charismatic, absolutely.
Okay,
I've heard of the other one. Some of the older people did mention that when they were young, that church was like that.
Whoa.
But no, it was very charismatic, and it was modest, but it wasn't. I mean, one of the pastors is a woman, so. And right now, that church is led by a woman. So,
so that'd be
pretty modern.
That would be in the the charismatic evangelical Pentecostal.
Yeah,
the mashing, of those
That's
two. All right,
now I did go to two Pentecostal churches. The one downtown Toronto, and I mean really downtown, near Yonge and Bloor downtown. Like I used to joke around and say about a third of the congregation has nose rings. Very liberal. It's so liberal that they didn't allow speaking in tongues out loud. They said if you were going to speak in tongues, just do it to yourself. They did not promote that.
Were they like the Assemblies of God?
Yeah, and then in the same denomination, but in the suburbs, they're rolling around on the floor and falling down and doing all the stuff that we know that they can do. They were doing it right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
This sounds like a Trumpism. I'm speaking in tongues just by thinking about it.
Yeah. So. And of course, there's the airport church. You guys heard of that?
No.
I don't think it's a big thing anymore, but in the 90s, Toronto Airport Church, apparently the Holy Spirit was very active there or something. So people were flying in from all over the world.
Oh.
And it was a vineyard church, but the pastor was warned to have to, pull back on some of the doctrinal incongruities. That he didn't care. So they got kicked out of the vineyard church and they just became independent. And it was the place to go to do carpet time. And people would line up and people would fall down and they'd need catchers. And I was a catcher.
Ooh.
I caught people.
Whoa.
You were
falling down, man. I don't do that shit.
So you were the catcher usher.
Yeah.
There
was a shortage of catchers because everybody wants to fall down and no one wants to catch.
Oh gosh.
I'll catch. The only reason I went there is because my wife at the time was really hooked on the place.
So and correct me if I'm wrong on this, that was about the same time that the Toronto and Aaron highlighted here, the Toronto outpouring.
That's right.
Wasn't that about the same time? And either John or if anybody here or even in the chat remembers, wasn't it about the same time that when the Toronto outpouring happened, there was shortly after that there was like a in like Pensacola, Florida or something like that. It was the Pensacola outpouring where they were like, whoever started it doesn't matter, but one church or whatever started it, then the other mocked it, or mimicked it. And there's like people, like you said, they're like hanging from chandeliers and swinging from chandeliers.
It's a great promotional thing, isn't it? You just say the Holy Spirit's active here. Come, you receive it. There was one time we went, and we're pulling up into the parking lot, and I think the whole place is a joke. Great music, excellent band, top-notch sound system. I'll give it that much. So my wife says to me, I got this headache. It's a bad headache. I say, well, I got some Advil. So I give her 2 Advil. And she takes it. Then we go into her thing. And then she runs off, when they have the call for like get touched and falling down, whatever, blessing, whatever it is. I go do some catching some people. And then we meet up later on. She says, you'll never believe what happened. It's a miracle. My headache's gone. And I thought, well, I gave you Advil. I mean, maybe that worked. No, it was the Holy Spirit.
You know what I got to say to that?
Hallelujah.
That's what I got to say.
Yeah.
And then one more question. We'll go back to music real quick because
right on.
I was like, whether it's a guitar player, bass player, drummer, whatever. I always like to know, like the go-to gear. And this is probably a very selfish question on my part, but what is or has been your favorite guitar to play? Like as far as the feel, the neck, and the strings, and because I know all of that matters.
Yeah, I'm a Fender player. I loved Fender Stratocasters, and I would still buy one, but it would have to be USA made, and it would have to be a pretty good one, because a Stratocaster has many moving parts to it, and I can't buy a Squier Strat. It doesn't work. But if I have to buy something less expensive, Telecaster.
Okay.
It's got 3 moving parts to it. I can work with the neck. I like a Telecaster, but I also like a ES335. So, this kind of hollow body thing. Yeah, I like that.
Sexy.
But I'm a Tele player.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
The Fender Strat, that was my very first guitar that started to learn how to play on. And you as a guitarist, you'll and those that play guitar, you'll know what I mean. I remember because I was young, and the neck was so fat. It was like sometimes I had a hard time, positioning my fingers to hit certain chords. Well, then I got introduced to it was like a limited edition Ibanez. I think it was a Steve Vai. I read the Steve Vai edition. And all of a sudden I went from that to where it was like almost, I'm exaggerating, but like paper thin.
Oh, you're really thin, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh, now I can actually play all these like blues scales and do all this and not like break my wrist trying to try to play it. But no, it's but Fenders sound great, especially if you have the right amp and everything. But let's dig in the book, and then here we'll kind of open up and get everybody involved here. So John, tell us the name of the book. You kind of mentioned it earlier that you're taking kind of a unique approach to it and how you're writing it, what perspective you're writing it from. So tell us about that, and then we'll kind of open up the conversation and get it.
Yeah, sure. Well, like I said, I wanted to my first initial response to my saying to myself that I am an atheist. Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, of course I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. And you know what? I should write a book about my journey. And then literally within minutes of going, no, what's the point of that? Because I'm nobody special. I think those kind of books would be best if someone is like sort of famous, and then people may want to know what turned them from being a pastor to, say an atheist. That's a good story. So mine, I said, no. I've always wanted to write fiction. So what if I write a story about someone else who stopped being a Christian, and then it just evolved like, all right, I'll tell you, I've admitted this to one other person. It was actually on to Michael Wiseman. I kind of cheated a bit. Now, I don't know. I'm going to ask you, have you ever heard of the book Pilgrim's Progress?
Yeah.
You've heard of that?
Yep.
I've read it.
Yeah. It was written in 1500 something, very strange language, and the guy called Pilgrim, and he meets a person called Evangelist. He tells him about the eternal kingdom. I loved that book as a Christian. I read it and studied it and all that stuff. So I said, okay, what if I do that in reverse? Except, I won't use the adjectives such as where he's living now is sinful. Everyone's just sinning and hating God all the time. Well, that's not atheism, right? Atheism is more like reason and logic and critical reasoning and stuff like that. So that's the goal I want to reach. And what's really awful it's the opposite of Pilgrim's Progress. What's really awful is where he lives. It's totally theocratic. It's evangelical, and you can't stop believing, because if you do, well, they throw you into prison, they'll torture you. It's that bad, right? And really, if you think about it, we have had that in our history. Christianity did that in Europe for hundreds of years. They loved burning people at the stake, right? You don't agree with them, you kill them. Now they don't do that so much. Now it's perhaps places like Saudi Arabia where they don't like you being an atheist there. You can get into some serious trouble. So these kind of places do exist on this planet. So I said, okay, if I'm going to write a fiction and play it in reverse, I also want to incorporate it's so far removed from the original idea of doing it in reverse that it's not noticeable. But I just admit to you that that's where the root of the idea came from. I like comparative religious studies because that's what I did between leaving Christianity and becoming an atheist. I mean, I just read everything about every religion. I just wanted to know about religions, trying to figure out which one works. And Hinduism. I went to a Hindu temple for about 6 months. I did all kinds of weird shit, and so I wanted to incorporate that into the journey. So we're going to start with chaos that is theocratic, and this person leaves that, but not just any person. This person's got to be very, very important. So there's a high priest, and then there's this. Okay, I'm also going to say that I give people qualities, the heroes, not the villains, of course. I give the heroes qualities that either I wish I had, or I actually do have, but maybe not to the degree they have. So I told you earlier, I wanted to be an apologist. So I make this person an advocate for the defense of the faith, which is technically an apologist, but a very high-ranking person. He works himself up to a position that he's second in command, sort of like Moses, that kind of bullshit. But he's second in command. So when those kind of people fall from grace, everyone notices it. It's a big thing. Now, I have had people who have read the first 3 or 4 pages of chapter 1 of The Way to Kealo and had to put it down because it triggered them. It's ugly. His fiance leaves him. The firm that he works at fires him. He goes home for the holidays. His father is really upset with him. His mother won't speak to him. His father then disowns him. He says, either you reconvert to this belief system or you're not my son. So I can't. I just don't believe. Then you are no longer my son. Get out. You're not welcome in my house anymore. He goes home. He sees a message on the door. He says, it's an eviction notice. And he knows, because he's an ex-advocate for the defense of the faith. He knows the law is coming after him. Now, there's a festival going on. They're celebrating the birth of their savior. Sounds familiar? So he knows he's got some time now. He goes down to the wall. The whole city's all walled off, and you're not allowed to leave. You just look over the wall, and he goes down there, and he's woe is me kind of situation. And all of a sudden, he hears a voice behind him a gentleman called Barnabas, and he's 68 years old at this point. And he says, "I see that you're having some problems," basically. And then there's some apprehension, but eventually the two of them talk, and Barnabas sees that Axel is his name, is no longer a believer. So he says, I was in the same boat as you. I'm originally from Wooden Dream as well. I'm not going to give the whole book away, but he tells them about a place called Kealo and how to get there. And you have to climb over this wall, and you follow a path called the Way. It's going to take you a long time, and you're going to have a lot of people try and prevent you. And you're going to come into contact with some good people, but also some bad people. But it's worth it. In the end, you'll get to Kealo, and you'll be living a life of reason and critical reasoning and all. So, free from religion. I don't know if I'm explaining this all that very well, but that's basically the idea. So it was intended to be a one-off book. But in 2020, as I was editing the book, it was around September or so, I also really pay attention to politics. I'm really into politics, global politics, American politics, absolutely fascinating. And I just see, I watch things like Telltale as well, because I'm fascinated with the same kind of shit that he is too. I mean, it's just really amazing. It's kind of sad, but you know, it's what it is. And 2020 was pretty weird. And so I had this idea as I was editing, maybe my third or fourth edit pass, that this can be more than just a deconversion story. Deconversion could be part of it. But you see, the title was The Way to Kealo, an allegorical account of deconversion. I got rid of that. And I wanted to, I saw the problem as being threefold. One is delusion. First, you have to delude yourself. Well, how do you delude yourself? Well, or become deluded. You have to, first of all, not believe true things, and then you make room for untrue things. And then you're deluded, which leads you, see if you can relate to this in 2020, anti-intellectualism. All of a sudden, science is like an enemy, and I don't know what we can say on this show, but face covering's not good. And it's the whole thing's a hoax. It's all fake. But these are the real true things. And instead, they replace them with dumb shit like, you know, so-and-so didn't lose the election, or again, I don't know what we can talk about here, but just fake stuff is believed and true stuff is not believed. That's anti-intellectualism. So delusion leads to anti-intellectualism. And that ultimately leads to one of the worst things ever, bigotry. Because then you can hate people, right? If you're deluded and you don't believe in science, then sure, of course, trans people are awful, right? That's how you get there. That's how you get to the point where you can hate groups of people and legitimize it. And so this threefold problem is what I wanted to address. So I figured this first book is about delusion. So it's a fictional analysis of delusion. So yes, it tells the story, but every once in a while, the narrative goes back to basically me telling you what I think. And then I link it and then continue the story. The next one takes the next book, which is also published, called The Barnabas Trail, is 6 years later after the arrival to Kealo. Well, people get married, they have children. There's LGBTQ there. It's like totally cool. One of the men who goes with Axel, because Axel leaves alone, but he 4 of them arrive at Kealo, not just one. He meets people along the way. And so one guy is he's gay, and you know he meets someone there and he gets married. And in book 2, I'm not going to tell you what it's about, but it's about anti-intellectualism. But that's the subtext. It's really just a story about people trying to get things done, and then there's anti-intellectualism getting in the way. And in book 3, which I'm now in the final stages of editing, and it should be released probably December, 22 years have passed. So it's called the Kealo expansion. I could have called it Kealo the Next Generation, but that sounded stupid, because that's kind of what it's about. People have grown up, some have died. Literally, there's a new generation. They think differently because I'm keen on the younger generation, because I used to be young. So this whole idea of, you know, we get old and then we shit on the young, that doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. I was an editor, and my assistants were all young people. And the last 12, 13 years, that's all I ever had is young people, and they saved my butt so many times. They're so damn smart. So yeah, I'm a guy who just likes to pass the torch to the next generation. And so I worked that in there. And there's so much bigotry that I found that I can expose. Yes, skin color is in there too, of course, because that's probably the #1 bigotry in the world. There's many other forms too. Young, old, gay, straight. Yeah. I mean, I have a trans person that character that I worked into the third book. And I'll tell you, that was a little difficult for me, only because I don't know. I've been meaning to like maybe call in on a trans show and ask a couple of questions to say if, you know, I want to do it right. Yeah, it was a difficult thing, and I think I've done it right, but yeah, I just don't know enough about it. Even though I've worked with a trans person, she was an editor. We worked on a show together, so I know some things about it, but writing about it, that was tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you said you're in the final stages, you know, of the
book 3.
The third piece, which here, let me throw this up one more time. So this is
yes, the third book, yeah,
the third book there. And the beautiful part is, John, we have plenty of people that are part of the LGBTQ plus community, the trans community that we get in contact with, and they love having the healthy dialogue, and the healthy conversations, and informing and educating and all that. So if you need that, you want that, you know, don't hesitate to, you know, message Jena or myself or whomever, and we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. But
okay,
before we carry on, Phil G, keep it has to bounce out. Got an early morning in the morning, so Phil, for hanging out with us. But anything you got coming up or you want to share before you dip out?
The 15th, well, I'll be on Nonprofits next Sunday in the premiere along with Cynthia. Yep. And the 15th of October, Cynthia and I will be on a panel with the Barbados humanists on slavery and reparations. Hopefully we can I'll be zooming, live streaming it also on Esther's channel, on my channel. Yeah, awesome. But it's going to be a Zoom panel discussion, so you can follow that. It'll be Sunday, the October 15th at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Awesome. Yep. And congrats on the premiere on the Prophets. That's badass, man. That's badass. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. So thanks everyone. And John, your books sound very interesting. So I'll be checking those out.
Hell yeah. Appreciate you, Phil.
Thanks. All right. Bye everyone.
Bye.
Take care, Phil.
And as Phil goes, throw one back.
No. All right, so I'll throw this out there, and then let's open up and get Teo and Phil C going in the action here. I'll kind of go this direction with it. Is John? I actually, because I think you correct me if I'm wrong, but your words are, was kind of a like a one-off book or whatever, because you're not a pastor now, an atheist. You're trying to create something that you're comfortable with writing and that you're proud of, and that you're putting your creativity into. I will say, at this stage, myself and I'm sure many others, we have read and we do appreciate the different books or interviews or whatever, because every story is different. I appreciate that you're taking it from a different perspective, that it's not, here's my story, here's what happened, because I don't have those creative ears that you have to try to put it into a fictional form and it be accurate. It'd be accurate to my experience, but what you're doing and incorporating all of these other, social, political narratives into it as well, I think is fucking brilliant. So, I guess my question to that is how, like, where is that? Was that just an idea that popped in your head because you're a genius, or where did that come from?
Listen, I only ever said I was a genius once, but I was, I think, 18. No, no. Look, I wanted to say something else. I climbed mountains. I discovered climbing mountains at age 15, and I climbed until I was 46, 47. And I climbed around Lake Placid, the high peaks region of the Adirondacks. I was so passionate about doing that I planned my vacation time around it, and I took I banked my sick days. I was in the union while I was at Network, and I had this arrangement with my wife that says, well, I get 2 or 3 weeks of vacation, we'll do whatever we want, but I get 6 days of sick days that I won't take. And that's how I went in country. At one point I went in for 14 days, but generally I would go in for 5, 6, 7 days, and I'd go in by myself. At first, when I was 15, I was guided by someone who knew better. But by the time I was in my early 20s, I just climbed by myself. I had to do it twice a year. And I did a lot of trips. And I became an outdoorsman. And I've been told that I should write a book about my mountain climbing adventures. Well, the Kealo Trilogy is it, because it's hiking. I had a problem with it at first. Now, if he's going to go on this path, what are there bicycles? Are there cars? Is there internet? Well, I mean, what's this world like that he's in? Well, the world we live in is 179 million square miles of land. In my world that I created, this is the world I created, is 12,500 square miles. Much, much smaller world. So the way that people get around is walking. There's no horseback riding. There's no motor cars. They hadn't invented the wheel, but they have science. Where did it come from? Well, it was necessity. I had to tell the story somehow. I struggled in the beginning how I could make this plausible. So I decided that I will keep within the bounds of physical reality. I don't go outside the bounds. Now, of course, there's fantasies with fire-breathing dragons and, gnomes running around, and that's cool. That's cool. That's not my fantasy. The fantasy ends with the fact that it's a 12,500 square mile world, and everything that we have in this world is in that world. So if you wanted to walk to a place where what otherwise we'd call India, where all the Hindu people live, well, not just Hindus live there, but just generally, or Baranak, the nation of Baranak, which is Muslims. And I don't use words like Hindu or Muslim. They're Baranakians, or they're Tripurans, because there's the kingdom of Tripura. But the way that it's presented is that if you know anything about religion, you go, oh yeah, these are Hindu people, right? And if you don't know, I'll be writing a compendium anyway. By March of next year, the compendium will be out, and you could check to see, oh, what does North Umbra mean? What does Tuhan mean? Yeah, it comes from the recesses of my psychedelic mind. I did a lot of psychedelic drugs when I was younger, and who knows, maybe it just opened up channels that I'm only now becoming aware of.
Oh, I love that because I'm a fan of psychedelics. So that's fascinating to me. But Phil and Teo, any questions or thoughts on that? I've been doing all the talking.
I will say it's interesting, the fantasy aspect of it, or world making, because when you write a book, or not just a book but a story of that nature, you have to define the parameters of your reality, so how far you can go, right? So you're not just like pulling stuff out of a hat when things happen. So that's a cool process.
Has to make sense.
Of defining it, and it can be strange, but it just has to be defined within your own universe, basically. Yeah. So the question that comes to mind is, there's a certain satisfaction in telling your own story, especially when you've been on a bit of a journey there. How does your satisfaction compare between writing the fiction version and telling your own version? Do you think you got more or less
Great question.
I think I got less. But I'm okay with it because I've fallen in love with the characters. There's 28 years spanned, and it's grown with me, and I'm okay. But I am tempted, especially since Better, which I didn't attend, but I've heard so much about.
But
I
you
am
will
tempted
next
to
year.
tell my story, like really unadulterated, and I can only do it on Tang. I've done it 3 times before. I was not ready the first time. It was close to 3 years ago. I was really hot to trot for this thing, and I went on Neil, the 604 Atheist show. Great show. But man, I dropped the ball. I was telling a story that I'm realizing in my mind, oh, I can't say that. But I'm ready now. Yeah, now I can tell the whole story. With all the bad parts and everything.
I don't think you could do it in a show. Honestly, I mean, at least not one show. I mean, if you wrote 3 books, you've got a pretty long story. I think you've got a good story to tell. I mean, finding the format is going to be interesting. And if you have your own channel or you do it in chapters or however you do it,
Well, I'll tell you, Phil, the reason I know my story.
Yeah.
And I was not a Christian, and then at 22 I became a Christian, and then by the time I'm 27, I'm Antichrist.
Yeah.
I had a mohawk. I just went crazy. Makeup. I got into goth and industrial, and I wrote songs about how religion is stupid and all that kind of stuff. I mean, not with words like that. A little more intelligent, of course. Burning at the Crossroads was a song I wrote, and no one would have guessed that I was ever a Christian. And so I went from that, like Sodom and Gomorrah, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the music scene was great. And I had this ensemble I put together, this industrial music. I did industrial music for a while. And members of the gay community really picked up on it. I started making all kinds of friends. Some of them actually joined me on stage. I was in the Gay Pride Parade, in 1988. But in 1979, I became a born-again Christian. So I went there, and you think, okay, well, I guess you're not a Christian anymore. And then, you know what? In 1992, I rededicate, and I end up in Pentecostal church till 2003.
Yeah.
I mean, this is up and down, and nobody in my book does that, because that's fucking crazy.
But what's in your head during those transitions? I mean, it's interesting when somebody makes a transition, but when somebody makes multiple transitions,
yeah,
we all kind of wonder what the thought process is. So that
me too.
You've got different.
Me too.
Different stories to tell. It would be interesting.
Look,
I can see chapters, whatever kind of format you eventually do this. So,
I did write a book, a memoir, but the angle was about my art or the things I did artistically. So everything had to sort of fall into place and channel back to that, because there's many aspects to my life. But art, music is a big one. And so, yeah, there I do touch upon, obviously, I was in a worship team. I led worship eventually. So, yeah, I talk about that. But I don't talk about that weird path. Now, since we're talking about this, and this may sound like a side thing, but I get triggered too. And I didn't realize that I get triggered. I guess I don't get triggered quite like, say, someone who's raised in a Christian home, and the story where maybe you didn't have such a great childhood, and then you leave Christianity, and maybe your parents don't talk to you, that kind of stuff. And I didn't have that. My parents actually got angry at me for becoming Christian. They were very disappointed. Weird, eh? Totally backwards.
Never happens.
But I didn't know what would trigger me. And just before Better, I got triggered really badly. Something really bad happened. John Hudson was there, on social media at the time. He watched it happen. I just went nuts. and it was people from my past. Not people from here, not just from my past. And I just got angry, and I blocked the person. They had 7 Facebook accounts. They always find me and just drive me crazy. And I went through my Facebook friends, and I'm just like, screw this. And I'll tell you, you know what triggered me? You know what you said there, Phil? When you go up and down, you have all these different lives that I've lived. What's the common thing? Community. There's always some kind of community. I was part of a Christian community, and then I wasn't part of a Christian community. Then I got into the music scene. In Toronto, it was called the Queen Street scene. That's the Queen Street community, the 80s. So I got into that community. And that led me down. And the Christian community let me down. And so then I went back to Christianity, and, well, that let me down. So community for me is just I didn't realize that I didn't like that word. I'm okay with it now, by the way, because everything that I've heard on this channel.
You didn't like the word at the time, or do you know why? And it was so important to you, even though you didn't realize it yet. But
no, I'm talking about this spring. Yeah, I got angry at myself thinking that. And there was another community I got involved in my 50s, which, I won't talk about. That was a community too. And as I said, I'm okay. I'm okay now. I worked it out. But I did do things that I regret. Back in May or something like that. And I wish I could fix it. I probably hurt some people. I didn't want to.
That's challenging.
We do that
That's
once in a
tough.
while, I guess.
Yeah.
I remember, Oz, you went through something like that too, and when you realized, especially when you were, going towards better, and then you did better, and then you realized, yeah, maybe I know I did wrong. And if there's anybody in the side chat, I'm not reading the side chat. I don't, but maybe I can. If there's anybody there, who was hurt by me, I'm sorry. I really am.
Nope. And John, I know we share this is sometimes in our trying to communicate our authenticity and our passions and trying to share them through the hurts and the pain and the wounds, whether they've healed or not, even it's just still a scab. There are times that we do and say things, and then a day, a week, a month later, it's fuck. Why did I say that? Why did I do that? Why did I react, in that manner? But here's all that matters is that we take ownership, right? And what you just did and I did after better, and I did a stream just about that. Is I now realize that there's some shit I've been fucking up, man. There's some shit that I've been fucking up, and I need to take ownership, and that's all we can do. And after that, if people want to forgive us, please, I want that. But if they want to carry on and not acknowledge the fact that we've taken ownership of what we've said or done and want to continue to hold that against us, that's now a them thing. That's a them problem. That's not a us problem anymore.
Yeah.
And kudos to you for doing and saying that, because that's there's not a lot of people that'll step up to the plate and say, you know what, I fucked up. I fucked up. There's the shifting of blame and but slapping that victim card down on the table, especially when we're dealing with theists, unfortunately. That's a quick response, but kudos for you, whether they accept your apologies and your ownership or not, that's on them.
Sure. Well, thank you. And you've helped a lot.
Well, I'm humbled that I've played any part in it. I am. And hopefully that's whether it's here, Skeptic Haven, the the real, the authenticity, I know that matters to all of us involved with and many other channels, but I know as closely as we work, all those things matter. Being authentic and being transparent and being the best versions that we know how to be, right? That we can. And I know we're doing that. I know you're doing that. So again, kudos to you.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, it's not always easy, especially, there's nobody in the room who hasn't made a mistake.
Yeah.
And there's nobody in the room who hasn't made more than one mistake. So,
Phil, to answer your question, I mean, I'm capable of writing books. I have, good English skills, and I think I write well. I just wonder, how deep shall I go? Because what happened near the end, those last 4 years, criminal activity took place.
Mm-hmm.
And people got hurt. Am I supposed to talk about that too? I don't know. It's not so simple.
Mm.
I mean, I say the surface thing. I really did go back to seminary. I mean, I took seminary online, and I studied, and I read, and I wanted to be an apologist. All that stuff is true. But while that was happening, there was a lot of criminal activity going on. And that's the only way I can put it right now on this show. But you know what?
Well,
if I could talk to somebody off maybe in Discord or something, like, how far would it be how tasteful, what's the tasteful length I'd go to explain it without pointing a finger at someone else? I don't like blaming people. I don't do that.
Unless you're talking to a book publisher, I think you can only decide this for yourself, John.
Yeah,
that's my impulse.
That was then.
Yeah.
This is now.
Well, you've got other. Yeah. So let's talk about now, because then you've got other ventures. So maybe Teo, you want to pick up.
I want
to
write a book on dying. Strange idea, but I do. It's an idea I've had since 2004. It's got nothing to do with atheism. It's in 2004. I asked myself, what if we ever got to this point scientifically where we can determine the expiry date of a human being? It would have to happen at birth, something with the umbilical cord, something they would take out and test and look at, and they say this organism that just has been born will live to no more than 82. Now, they may die sooner. There's a number of reasons. It could be they chain smoke, or they've been drinking too much, or eat fatty foods, or they get hit by a train, or someone kills them, or they commit suicide. All those things aside, perfect conditions, 82. Next person, 27, And how would that change the world if we had that option? You see, when I had my son, they had ultrasound. We were able to tell that he was okay, but we couldn't tell the gender of the child. But these days, people say, "Oh, my wife's giving birth next Wednesday at 9:00, and we're having a girl." So, we're at that stage. But in the 60s, we didn't have that. So, what if we have that in the future, where we know how long we're going to live? How would that change the world?
Yeah, that's a huge question.
that would be nuts.
And honestly, that sounds like a great movie.
Yeah, it's. So that's the book I want to try and write next, but we'll see.
I'm reminded of Logan's Run and Gattaca, kind of in the same vein.
Kind of. But it would be, again, when I think of fantasy or science fiction, I like to keep it real, because I remember the 60s when there was a show called Here Come the 70s, and they told us that we're all going to have robots clean our toilets, and we're going to ride around in hovercrafts and take jetpacks to work. Well, no one predicted the internet. How boring is that, sitting in front of a screen with a keyboard?
Yeah.
People spend hours at it. They didn't say that. They never mentioned that.
Yeah.
So the future is still, okay, technology could be very impressive. I got a flat screen TV hanging on my wall. Super. I'm talking to you we're doing this. I can record at home. But we're still people. So I like to keep things very people-oriented, relationships. That's what I'm interested in. So I want to know how that affects relationships, interpersonal and community and globally. Some countries wouldn't allow it. There'd be a
Good
black
themes.
market for it.
Good
Of course,
themes.
religious people would be against it, saying that you were tampering with, God or something like that. It'd be controversial as all hell.
That's usually a good thing when
Yeah.
you're looking for something to talk to the public about. That's usually considered a good thing.
And real quick, I'm gonna jump in, and then Teo, if you have any questions, I'll let you ask her if you want to say anything. But real quick, we do have a super chat. We do have a super chat, so you know what we do.
Blame it on the loose. Got you feeling loose. Blame it on the loose. Got you feeling loose. Blame it on the alcohol. Blame it on the alcohol. Blame it on the alcohol. Blame it on the.
We have a super chat from Constellation Pegasus for $4.99. Thank you for the support. Who here thinks the Earth and man is 6,000 years old?
I doubt.
I really hope nobody.
My next door neighbor does.
So I'm reminded of the Republican primary last time around, where they asked stuff like this, and it's like everybody's like, "Oh, I have to raise my hand because the base wants me to say yes."
I was never like that. I never spoke in tongues. I didn't believe in a second blessing. And near the end of being, just actually the year or two before I left Christianity altogether, I was known to saying, even if Jesus didn't exist, aren't these words great? These red words? Can't we just go by the red words? It doesn't matter whether you existed or not. They thought I'm just from hell. You can't say stuff like that in church. So it didn't matter to me whether he lived or not.
This just comes to my head. I'm curious. Have you ever heard of anybody writing a song with lyrics of people speaking in tongues?
No, but I can fake it really well.
Oh, I can too.
I'm not suggesting it would be a good thing to do. I'm just
Stick up
really
a hive,
kind of curious now. Maybe we'll take one of Oz's songs and just spin them backwards.
You know what? I'll tell you. There's a song called "Creeper" that I wrote in 2018, and I made up words. They're not real words. So I guess you can say that's my tongue.
This sounds familiar. This song.
Yeah,
but I don't think it. No, I'm thinking of a different song by a woman. So
we had a stream like a year ago that maybe it was longer than that now, but just to prove the point, I spoke in the tongues that I spoke in that when I thought it was the Holy Spirit live on stream, and people are like, "Holy shit, you actually it's memorized." I memorized the shit, and I said the same shit over and over. It's not the Holy Spirit. It's my goddamn brain. But Teo, did you have anything you would say or ask? I want to make sure you
well, I was going to ask you, I have never seen that down here. I'm not sure if that is something only from the USA or what, but I've never seen people talking in tongues. Could you try that so I can get the tongue speaking experience?
You mean, can I do it right now?
Yeah, can you do it?
Is this English tongues? I mean, do they have French tongues and Italian tongues? Or
yeah, oops.
That's a good point. That's a really good question.
It's only the Holy Spirit, John. It's only the Holy Spirit is not a respecter of person or region. Yeah, I mean, I could go, and it's just a repetition. Like it's very rhythmical, and there's certain parts where you hit like there's an emphasis on certain for whatever goddamn reason. I don't know.
Sometimes you hold it like
it's
sound.
wacky ass shit.
Sound. It's very important.
It's some wacky.
That's not street English. Okay, good to know that. Thank you.
Who I've always thought would be really good at speaking in tongues is people who do comedy improv, because when you're doing improv, you basically have to think, or basically kind of not think, I guess, and sort of run with what comes to your head without stopping to slow down and think it through and be self-conscious about it. So I would think that if people are doing good at improv, they could probably just speak in tongue for like hours.
or rappers.
Well, I don't know. It's a
No,
well. No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, because that's that.
because they
Yeah,
got
it's not.
you know,
How
the
does that? How does
freestyle-
that sound for you
freestyle
when you're
rapping,
when you're
you
freestyle
gotta be on the
rapping?
ball for that. Yeah.
You kind of have to. How much of that is just sort of? Are you sort of thinking 3 words ahead in terms of rhyme or whatever, or do you kind of let it flow without slowing your self-conscious, without being too self-conscious about it?
I can honestly say both. There are certain times where maybe I'm struggling with coming up with ideas or where I want to go next. Especially if it's like a battle. If it's a battle rap, I'm definitely planning ahead. It's more of a chess match, right? Where I'm planning ahead. If it's just for fun and I'm shooting the shit, it's just whatever I piece together and it makes sense. Like it flows, right? And it goes. But if it's strategery, and I have someone I'm battle rapping and there's a topic or whatever, then yes, it's more of the I'm thinking 3 and 4 words. Well, when I say 3 and 4 words ahead, it'd be on the 2s and the 4s where I have to rhyme on the beat, right? I'm thinking 3 and 4 bars ahead to line up my story or my narrative. So it's similar, but I'll also say
that's cool. I couldn't do that. That's neat.
Jena's getting out of control in the chat. But with tongues, one thing is you adopt very similar dialect and rhythmic patterns from those you're surrounded by that are speaking in tongues. So like if you heard me and I'd actually spent 5 minutes or whatever going through what would have been my normal speaking in tongues pattern, it would have sounded very, very similar to what you would have heard from my mom or my youth pastor, my brother, because you pick up different pieces from these different people. And that's where I would say I would relate it to freestyling.
Yeah.
Is because there's a lot of the patterns and the rhythmic part of it that I've picked up from my favorite artists, because that's who I listen to. That's what I take on, right? So it's a learned behavior. It's a learned behavior, just like freestyling.
Just like playing lead guitar. I play the blues and I could do solo for a couple of minutes, and it's all a bunch of patterns that I'm just familiar with. Yeah.
So that sounds like a little bit of muscle memory too.
Yeah.
Elements, I guess, of, and you sort of mash them together in different ways, like jazz does.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep saying this, so Teo, finally, I'm gonna say this and finally shut the fuck up. Is there anything you wanted to say?
I had forgotten, but I wanted to tell John that I know how hard it is writing and trying to create your own whole world. So I love your map, and congratulations on being able to do that, sir. You're great, and it's really, really hard. I tried to write books in the past and I gave up because it's hard. It's complicated to follow your own rules and create your own world. Also, do you have I think Phil told me that you have a book review channel.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Yeah. Since starting October 22nd, right now I'm heavily involved in renovating this house. We have guests, family arriving.
Wait.
Tomorrow.
You have a book review channel? What is it all about?
So the idea of this came from my personal frustration of nobody wanted to hear about my book. So, we're talking about it tonight, but that's kind of rare. And I went on YouTube to see, is there anything where people are wanting to talk to people about what the book they wrote, self-published? No, there isn't. There's a audio podcast like that, and there's book bloggers, but there's nothing video, like where you're having a chat, like what we're doing right now. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll start one. So I joined every single self-published author Facebook page there is, and I started posting in them, hey, I'm starting this idea. If you want to be part of it, and we can have a chat. We can call it an interview, but I'd like to say, let's have a chat or a conversation. I'll record it, and then I'll post-produce it and put top and tail, intro, and little stingers in between, all royalty-free, of course. And we'll do this once a week, and that's how it started. Tell me about your book.
It's a
You know,
great
when
idea.
you say to a self-published author who's trying to get their book off the ground, hey, tell me about your book. Get on my show. I got a lot of responses. I got a calendar here that's taking me all the way to February. So I've had to slow it down because I'm booking people into February now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when are you going to get your first videos up?
Okay. Well,
So
I
you
got
wrote
two,
those.
two edited already. I would have had three, and I got some. Now that we have a guest arriving tomorrow for a week, I'm taking a week off, and then I go straight to
Yeah.
it. I have 3 conversations booked. Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays is my conversations. I spend the rest of the week editing them into show formats. I'm going to have 1 show per week. I don't know exactly what's a good time. Analytics will tell me that. I guess I'm going to start by October 22nd. At 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll see. I'll follow the analytics of who's watching, what's the best time, and I'll adjust accordingly. And then maybe I'll work up to 2 shows a week, because if I'm doing 3 interviews a week, then I'll be banking ahead of time. I have a killer Halloween special. I found this one person who's written like 20 horror books. He just specializes in horror.
John, is it killer though? Is it killer?
What?
If we're talking about Halloween, is it actually killer?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
No pun intended.
Right. So I got my background of graveyards, various graveyards. I ordered some face paint. I'm going to make myself into a ghoul. I do that very well, by the way, because I did a lot of theatrics before when I was younger. And I'm actually, I was cutting bumpers of horror bumpers, and a lot of my music can be very horrible as well. So I've been using all my own stuff, and it's going to be an amazing show. It's going to be a special on Halloween. It's going to be played. And then I got a Christmas show special coming up as well. So yeah, that's what I do. I'm talking to people about their books and tell me about your book. And that actually checks off a lot of boxes for me, because I'm pretty fucking lonely where I am. Everybody I know is back in Toronto. I had a brain aneurysm. I came here. By the time I got better, like I told you, I wanted to go out and meet some people, but then I couldn't because there was a pandemic, and now the pandemic's over, and I still don't have any friends here. So,
writing is a lonely endeavor. I mean, so
yeah,
I think you're going to find a lot of common cause here.
Brain aneurysm is a pretty lonely endeavor too, like lying in that goddamn hospital. And then I lost my career as a result, and so I moved here, and my wife and I, we get along, and I have dogs, but all her relatives are older than I am. And that's not that much fun for me. So I want to meet some people, and this is something that's going to help me too. I've already had 2 interviews, and talking to people, even if it's online, is better than nothing.
Yeah, I think you're going to enjoy it.
And you know what? There's a line in a Bob Dylan song that says, "I'm going to forget about myself for a while and go out to see what others need." And that's helping me.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
No, that's great advice for all of us.
Yeah.
Because and you know, Drew had said that at the Better Conference, even when we had him as a guest on here, and he kind of slapped me upside the head with that, and he was like, no, the fact that, you know, with all the bullshit, you know, that you've been dealing with, the fact that you and the channel as a whole are still trying to just help people, like that's only going to help you.
Yeah.
You know, as far as mental health and just feeling like you're doing something for or helping someone else. It is powerful.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about the show too is it's always going to be about them. Like, I've had shows before. I tried my hand at having an atheist program. And the first one was too much work. The script took forever to write. I had to get all the B-roll, and you know, it took me almost a week to put together a show. I can't write my book. This is all I'm doing. The second one was, I said, let's just keep it simple. Turn on the camera, turn on the mic, and just go and talk for like about a topic. Give me a topic and I'll talk about it. I'll stumble, whatever. I won't edit it and just upload it. And I used my last name, well, my middle name, Christian. I just called it Christian Stories. There was a few people that liked it, but it just got boring after a while talking about what I think all the time. You know, who am I really? I like talking to other people about what they think.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's I like the idea of your book. I know there are book review channels of various types, but there's not enough attention to the self-published. And like you said, I'm not aware of a single one that does what you're going to do. So I think that's a good idea.
I was surprised that it's unique, and that really turned me on. Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck. So do we have I think we have your link in the chat. I want everybody.
Yeah, I got 35 subscribers.
Well, let's get it up higher than that.
Well, my personal channel, I got almost 500, but that's, just me playing music all the time.
Well, that's a different audience too, so that's a different demographic. Because I mean, there was a guy I can't remember his name, but that I came across who actually was doing some atheist content, but he really is a reader. He loves to read, and he has a Facebook channel, and has gotten big, basically very large, pretty quickly. So it's with the right. I think this is a good idea. You might be surprised how quickly it can grow once people start to find out about it.
And I wouldn't say it's a complex, but it does make me, take note. I'm 65. 5 years goes really by really fast. And sometimes I think negatively about my age. I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't. I'm still that same hip guy that I was 30 years ago, but I am 65. And I got arthritis, and my right side doesn't work too good. And I got other health issues. And, how can I relate to a younger audience? Well, I do concern myself with that. Yeah.
Well, this is not about age. This is about story.
I know,
and people wanting to be writers. So I think this is a good way to get around that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I'm trying to because of what you brought up a minute ago, John. I'm going, and when I say it's a deep dive, it's a deep dive. I'm trying to go back into not TANG, but the Atheist Round Table, back into the archives, because I think you would love the first Halloween show that we did, and what I did live, and I'm trying to locate it because the shit is hysterical. So give me a second, because I'm
okay. I'm just gonna go to the loo. I'll be right back.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that shit. It's hilarious. Oh, you know what? I know why I can't find it. I know why.
Find it. I got curious now.
I'm about to find it.
When you've got a guy named Murder Shed Steve, you've got you're one up on the Halloween theme. You got a good start. You got your foot on the first step of the ladder right there.
Absolutely, we got a guy that has a murder shed. It's and I went like I can be edgy. Obviously, we all know that. But this one, I went all the way out. Even for me, I went all the way outside of the box. So I'm trying to. I think I know where to find it now. If YouTube's will cooperate, please.
Going to sneeze.
Oh, come on, YouTube. Work with me. Work with me. God damn.
You can do it, Oz. We believe in you. I believe in you.
Oh, you know what? No, let's do this. Let's go here. It's worth it. I promise it's worth it.
Totally. But I totally believe you. In the meantime, I just have to say I'm a bit sad that my "What is the channel all about?" joke didn't land at all. So that's it. That's my summary of today.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
Oh, when I ask what is the channel all about, that
Oh,
that has been my best joke in a long time, and it didn't land at all.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He's trying to find a Halloween clip from Tart.
Yeah, so y'all chop it up for a minute. That way we don't have dead air, and I'll let you know as soon as I find it.
Okay.
Okay, John, at the very beginning, you said that people couldn't pronounce your last name.
Okay.
So
You want to try?
I want no. I don't want to pronounce it. Well, maybe, but I want to hear it. I just want to
Sure,
hear it properly said.
Sogus. It's
Just-
2 syllables. Sogus. But here's
Okay.
the thing.
How do you write it?
Yes, it's spelled S-Z, and I'll say it Z in Canada Z. S-Z-O-G-E-S.
Okay.
And my first name, legally, is not John, it's Jean, because I was born in Belgium, and the doctor just filled in, well, in Belgium, it's Jean. So people call me Jeans, they can't pronounce, they see the Z or the Z, and they just don't know what to do.
So it
It's
throws them.
pronounced Sogus.
Sogus.
So
Is it so?
funniest way
Like
that my
S-O or like
S-Z-O, S-Z-O.
That's with a little Z.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jena wrote it.
So-
If I read it in Spanish, that would be like "so yes."
Yes.
So yeah.
Be right back.
So
Oh, Oz disappeared. He left us.
here's the funny thing, because no one can pronounce the name, and they say Jean. They never say Jean. They say Jean. If my last name was a French name, then they would say Jean. Even when we had
Yeah.
we had a Jean Chrétien prime minister, I figured, oh, now they'll know how to pronounce my first name. No, because my last name is not French. They still say Jean. So the absolute funniest mispronunciation of my name took place in a hospital or a clinic. I was getting my blood tested. The nurse comes out very, very confident, room full of people. She goes, Jean sausage? Jean sausage? And I had to stand up, and everyone's looking at me. And
Yes, right here.
I was tempted. I was so tempted to say, that's my porno name.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, she must have just turned red after that. Oh, well, it's not so hard to pronounce, but you're right. Anybody who looks at the spelling of it would pause or stall or something.
My father's brother, my uncle, and his family moved to Virginia, escaping Hungary. They went to the United States, and we went to Canada. And I spent a long time wishing that we had gone to the States, because I thought the States was much cooler than Canada. And I still very much like the States, but he dropped the Z. For there, it's S-O-G-E-S, and Americans have no problem pronouncing that. It's still a weird-looking name, but that
It's
Z
unusual.
just
Yeah, it's unusual.
puts people off, and they pronounce all kinds of F's, Q's, all kinds of letters get pronounced in there.
Just tell them how to spell it. Just say it's S-Z-O-G-A, and the J is silent, and just let them go with that.
Yeah.
So just
Well,
throw
as a
something
musician, I didn't
strange
want to put
in
up with
them.
that. Screw that, John
Yeah.
Christian. There you go. Now, my father, he told me a story that because when you're refugee status, and if you have unusual names, you can choose a new name if you want. You can choose a country to live in. You can choose a new name. And he was thinking of Conrad. And he was thinking of Australia. I could have ended up in Melbourne. I could have been John Conrad. That's a cool name.
That's that's an actor name, John Conrad.
Yeah.
Really like John Cleese has that thing too, because his real family name is Cheese.
Is
so
it?
They changed it from Cheese to Cleese.
That's not
Cleese.
John Cheese, no.
Yeah, read his bio. It's funny. So you've got a music channel. Are you still? I saw it, but I kind of looked at it quickly because I was looking at the book stuff.
I just put a link there to it. Yeah, it's mainly music.
Do you have new content on it?
Yeah, I do. I sometimes in this room, I sometimes just pick up a guitar and I play, and then I post-produce it, because I post-produce everything.
Yeah.
And I put bass and extra little things on it, and it's kind of fun. But it goes back to actually the 80s, because we were I was in a band that was very theatrical, and so a lot of people came with their cameras, especially film students and art students, needed to videotape what we were doing because we were very visual and theatrical, dressed up, makeup, set design. And so I got hold of that footage. I didn't know what to do with it at the time, so I just held on to it until such time as, well, we have computers. My Mac Pro I got in 2008, and I could edit at home. Wow, cool. So I did. So I edited all that old footage into separate videos, and that's on there too. So that's from the 80s. So you can see me what I was like when I was in my 20s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's that. But mainly it's stuff that I play on my own. Just for fun.
Are you doing sort of I don't want to call it jazz, but are you doing new bits or new songs, or are you?
I haven't stopped writing.
Nice.
When I write these days for the last, 10 years or so, there's a lot of electronica, some experimentation, soundtracks, sort of a soundtrack quality. I have a program where I have like orchestral sounds, and I've been practicing orchestrating music as well. Wow. So more psychedelic type of thing. But when I play, I just play guitar and sing.
Yeah.
And I haven't written really a lyrical song since, I think, 2016. It's been mainly just instrumental, experimental stuff. Not so good beats. I mean, they're not out there stuff, but more like soundtracks.
Well, maybe we can find out how to get some of your music out in this atheist community. There's so many people doing shows.
I have a Bandcamp page where all my music is, and recently somebody's been buying my music. Now it's up to about $60. So someone seems to like it.
Can you throw that link up for us? If anybody wants to listen to that,
how do I do that?
Well,
Aaron, I'll
let me throw that to Wes. Throw that to Wes. Wes can find it and throw it up.
I was supposed to say, I think Jena has it.
Okay.
If I put it in the chat, can I do that?
Sure.
You should be able to.
And I can tell for own experience, we always need intros and outros. So you will be very successful if you start doing that for other channels.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where everybody would get to know you pretty quick.
There it is.
Okay, I'll cut and paste it into the public here.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Guys, it's been awesome meeting John, but in here is extremely, extremely late. So sadly, I have to leave now. Thank you for inviting me, for having me here. And thanks, John, for telling your story. It's been quite interesting.
Well,
Hope to see you soon around, guys.
Take care.
Thank you, Teo. We'll see you soon on The Global Atheists, along with Phil G.
Thank you, guys.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
I'm going to apologize for the anti-climax for whatever reason. I cannot find this Halloween episode, but I will. I'll give you the rundown, but you're not going to.
No.
Shame on YouTube. It's not on you, it's on YouTube. Shame on that.
Hold on to it.
I'm disappearing.
Right.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Take it easy, Teo. So you're going to do a Halloween show at some point?
Oh, we'll probably do. We've done one each year, so we'll probably do another one this year.
But you got one this year, or it's the 30th you're doing it, right? That's your album release.
The 30th will be the album release, and we'll have a separate for Halloween. Yeah.
Hey, I want to ask you because I don't know I don't know how to use Spotify or iTunes. I mean, I could operate Avid and Final Cut and Premiere and After Effects, but I don't know how to do Spotify. So I bought your first single.
Thank you.
And I'm glad to support it, but I never received it. So am I supposed to receive it? Is it downloadable? Is that the idea or not?
Yeah. You bought it on iTunes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go to iTunes, there should be like a little like download button, and
Yeah,
then it should pop up then on your Apple Music.
Okay. Well, I'm not that hip, but
I'll help you.
I want to buy your album. So when it comes out, I want to buy the whole thing. I like your music, so
I appreciate that. I do. For real. Yeah, that's that night's going to be fun. I'm actually going to be kind of restructuring my studio area just for that one stream. I'm pumped. I'm excited, but no, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. I'm not even gonna talk about because I'm gonna find this Halloween stream, and it's not. I'm not gonna do it any justice to trying to explain it. So I'm gonna wait.
Yeah.
So sorry everybody for the anticlimax there.
no problem.
In that, but John, we're at the hour 40-minute mark. So before we start to wrap it up here, hold on, we have a super chat. Yeah. Yeah. Another super chat from Constellation Pegasus for $9.99. Since you guys are in the music business and around the 1970s, wasn't Kiss one of the biggest bands of all time? I love hearing Peter Criss drum solos.
My brother liked Kiss, but I was too old for that. that was after. Yeah. They were big though. And Bob Ezrin produced Kiss, and he's from Toronto, and then he went on to produce Pink Floyd The Wall. Oh, so that was more of a Pink Floyd classic.
Yeah. Classic album. For me, being a drummer, I was actually not a big Peter Criss fan. So I appreciate his ability and his talent, but I wasn't like a fan, so to speak. But I'm also one of the drummers where I don't. I'm not into the guys that are like doing fills and everything when there's no reason to do the fills.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, and people laugh when they hear this, but my two favorite drummers of all time are Ringo Starr and David Grohl. That was Nirvana, and then the Foo Fighters, because it was all about, again, twos and fours. The best drummers in the world you don't know are there until you realize that they're there because they fuck something up, right? And that's one thing with Ringo Starr and David Grohl is they knew right when to hit the drum fills, right when the crashes, right when to build, but it was never like, why is the drummer doing all this? I'm trying to listen to the lyrics, right? So that's my answer, long-winded answer to that. But thank you, Constellation Pegasus, again for $9.99. Thank you for the support. And John, one last time before we wrap up, the third part of your series here is coming out. Well, first of all, just for clarity, I know on social media you put December, but are you still on track for December for the third one?
I think so. Yeah, I'm very happy with the edit pass that I'm doing right now. It's 30 chapters. I'm starting chapter 20 tomorrow. I work in the morning. First thing in the morning, I wake up, I start working on the book. So after this, I only imagine maybe one more edit pass, and then a couple of read-throughs, proofreading, and then I'm done. I do all the editing and proofreading myself. So
awesome.
December is definitely going to be the time. Yeah.
And again, congratulations. And one last time, what's the name of the what's the name of the series, and what's the name of the
series is called the Kealo Trilogy. The first book is The Way to Kealo. That's the journey. It's a very linear thing, you know. The second one is called the Barnabas Trail. It's my experimentation with multi plotted stories, like different things happening at the same time and sort of converging at the end. And the third one is called the Kealo Expansion, because 22 years have passed by and it's expanded and it's gotten bigger and it has some problems. And that is that's very multi-plotted, even more so.
That sounds so interesting.
I love the way your brain works, because and I'm not going to go on the rabbit trail, I promise, but like when I hear you talk, and like even when I talk to Dr. Josh when he's writing, when he's in the midst of writing his, it's like the way your guys' brains work, it is so intriguing to me, because my brain does not work the way y'all's brains work, and it's so fascinating to me. I think it's absolutely awesome, so when that drops, we'll be sure to have all the links and everything ready for you guys to purchase. But in the meantime, Jena just dropped the link to John's newest channel about it is talking to people about their books, what they're writing. So she dropped the link there. Make sure you go subscribe and support John and what he's doing there. And we had the other link for his channel where he just gets on there and jams. And what I love is he'll get on there in like a muscle shirt and get to just rip on the guitar. So go support that shit as well. Make sure you get behind that. And the last thing I'll say on that front is, John, we sure fucking love you, man, and we sure appreciate you and what you bring to the community, even just your support, as a subscriber, as a listener, as a viewer. We all sure do appreciate you.
Thank you, and I appreciate you very much.
Absolutely, sir. It was as I told you the first time we talked about this, it is, and I can't wait for the episode of What's Your Story. I can't wait for that. So whenever you're good to go, you're ready to rock and roll, I can't wait. I can't wait for that.
Okay.
And Phil C, what y'all got happening over there?
Pretty much every day now I'm editing short clips from the Skeptic Haven shows. So I put those up on TikTok, and so that they'll check out the TikTok channel. That's growing pretty well. I'd like to see it a little faster, but it's doing pretty well. And I just started putting those on YouTube too. So if you need a little to whet your appetite from the longer shows and want little bits of interesting, tasty morsels, to check out the YouTube channel or TikTok or Instagram. Sometimes I show up on Instagram, so that's taking a lot of my time too. But I love editing too. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And as my grandma would say, little bad. I call her little Betty. She's a tiny little thing. If you want something to wet your whistle, go check out Skeptic Haven, whether it's shorts on YouTube or like Phil said, TikTok. All the damn platforms. Go check it out. But any interesting episodes you guys have coming up, Phil?
That's a Wes question, because I'm not the one who plans the episodes.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot then. God damn it, Wes.
So Wes, throw something in the private chat. I will say about the shorts real quick. I am so impressed with Michael Weissman. John, you just were on his show.
Yeah.
Check out his Bible Says What episodes too. But for shorts, oh my God, he's like the ultimate mic drop guy. So whenever you're watching a Michael Weissman short on TikTok, watch to the end, because he's just got some great comebacks and end moments, and they all kind of end like that on a boom, and then the music just comes up and hits you. He's great. That's why he's got the most watches too of anybody on that channel. So kudos to him.
And I'll give two promos to. One is Michael Weissman, and also works with Skeptic Haven, and the other one is also named Michael, but it's Michael the Canadian Atheist. Have become two of my favorites to listen to, that I just recently really became aware of how similarly that I view these things that they do, and all of a sudden I've fell in love with listening to them. So if you're not familiar, yes, go to Skeptic Haven and follow. Was it Secular Soapbox that he does? He
does Secular Soapbox, co-host that with Apostasy, and also his Bible Says What. That's his mic drop show.
Right.
Bible Says What.
Yeah, so go check those out. And Michael Weissman, he's a beast. He's a beast. Go check. And then Michael, the Canadian Atheist, he doesn't do YouTube, but he has a podcast. And you can go back. I did a stream with him about a week ago, and all the links and everything are there. And it's like it is amazing. The more you do kind of traverse and kind of expand your territory, so to speak, as you reach out in other places, you meet and find these other people. It's like, oh, there are even more people that are like-minded, and even if they don't have similar backgrounds, we today have a similar current position or perspective or view. So there's a shout out to Two Michaels. Go check out the Two Michaels. And that just reminded me of the old commercial. It was in the late 80s, early 90s with Michael Jordan. If I could be like Mike, if I could be like, I just want to be like Michael. I just want to be cool like Michael.
Be like Mike.
But before we wrap it up, I'll just remind everybody tomorrow night, right here on the Atheist Network Group, 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're gonna have another installment of What's Your Story, and again, I love that I absolutely love that I get to do this. I get to have a conversation and interview my aunt.
Oh yeah.
And there's a part of this story that we've talked about here and there on YouTube, but I really want to spend some time talking about, and that was our first conversation here in Fort Wayne, where I thought she was contacting me to like witness to me and to like, okay, I really thought I truly thought that my mom put her up to this before my mom had passed. I really felt like my mom had put her up to this. Like, okay, I can't get through. His stepdad can't through. His brother can't get through to him. Maybe you can, because you're outside. Your family, but you're outside of the the day-to-day context or narrative. And I walked into it like she's trying to get me saved. Phil, John, she's trying to get me saved. And by the end of it, I'll skip through all of it, but by the end of it, I remember I sat in the parking lot for a good 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I watched her drive off, and I was like, what the fuck just happened? What the fuck just happened? Right, so there's a little cliffhanger, so you'll get the rest of the story tomorrow night. But then the next single for my album will drop on the same day that pre-sales start. So that's October 10th, and it's actually the song I wrote for Into Jena. It's titled "On Your Mind," I fucking love that song. I'm biased as fuck, but I love that. And pre-sales start that same night, and then on the 30th, the album drops, and we'll have the listening / viewing party, and we'll have fun doing that. And on the 17th, it's Biddy and I, Biddy Buddha and Oz doing it old school, and we're gonna get fucked up and talk about the Bible.
All right.
And talk about the Bible. So everybody, thank you for hanging out with us tonight, and please follow all the links, support John. Keep an eye out when the book drops, but the other books are already there. Like, go click links, buy the fucking books, book,
and subscribe to the book review channel, because you're not. I mean, we want to support John, but you're also supporting these independent authors.
Right.
They need it too. So let's give them a good audience when John's shows start to roll. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, as I wrap it up, Phil C, as always, thank you for showing up, having drinks with me, chatting.
Always good.
Appreciate it. And again, John Christian, we love you, sir. We love you. Appreciate you in any way we can help to support or whatever to help promote and push you forward. You already know. Holla at your boy. Okay. You already know that. But
thanks, Hodge.
No, absolutely. So we love y'all, and I'm getting ready to go and hang out with Jena, and that's digitally, so nobody get excited. We're not in the same place yet. But I'm gonna go hang out and talk with her for a little bit. But I will be jumping on later once we're done talking, because we have our next live my next live DJ show, like actual concert in about 10 days. So I have to start prepping for that and practicing for that. So I'll do that once we're done hanging out and talking. But no, love y'all, appreciate y'all, okay. And we will see y'all soon. Tang gang.
Yeah. This is for all you non-philosophizing black sheep, unwelcome, push to the side motherfuckers like me.
Fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Yeah. Fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Let's get down to business. These bitches got glitches. And you thought you'd dismiss us? Nah. Now I'm laughing in stitches. See, the problem be, it'll be a tragic travesty to come after me. So just know this is how we get down. Respect that shit like a pronoun, bitch. Yeah. Fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Yeah. And fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Yeah. Fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way. Yeah. Fuck what they say. Tang gang, Atheist Your Way.